Okay, happiness would be really, really easy if you could just go in and say, "Oh yeah, I like this, I like that," and just pick stuff that works. But you often can't, and the reason is because there are other factors which distract us, right? And there are certain things that where we bump into other people, and sometimes our own way doesn't really work. I have included five of the most unhappiness, actually six, I think, of the most unhappiness inducing asteroids in part two of this recording series on happiness in the astrology chart. The six, okay, before I tell you about that, let me just mention that in my most recent book, Laurentia, I talk about a group called the Mean 13. And of the first 1,000 asteroids, there are 13 which just really uh, wreak havoc in people's lives, and they do all kinds of stuff. But they don't necessarily correspond to unhappiness. They just correspond to various kinds of obstacles and inconveniences, either for you or for other people. However, several of the mean 13 appear in this list of six. Zelia, Priska, Ricarda, and Damocles are four of the mean 13, and the other two are Yrsa and Siri. Okay, let's talk about these. Siri is a really, really good indicator of your unhappiness with established systems. And I have to say that Siri, along with Zelia and another one called Chimera, when they mix up with Saturn and a lot of the times Mercury, but really just Siri and Zelia, are two of the asteroids which are most responsible for people having a bad attitude. So if you've ever run into somebody who's got just a really wretched attitude, I have. I've run into a couple of people, and yes, they have Siri and Zelia strongly in their chart. Siri is just where you're just not satisfied with what's going on. You notice that this person has Siri next to Juno. So there's going to be an air of dissatisfaction with commitment partners in the eyes of the world. And that's really unfortunate because this is a very happy chart in general. But when it comes to certain kinds of commitment, there's just an inherent tendency towards dissatisfaction. They're not in the same duodecanate, and so you can actually divorce these. But that's, again, it's unfortunate. Zelia is where you block things. This is a shield asteroid. Your shields are up by default with Zelia, and she has it in the Leo square. Leo square is where you're playful, but you're trying to put your emotions out there as well. And so this is an air of being guarded with how one plays. It can also come off as discipline. And so if you have some kind of regimen in order to control your emotions under play, then you can make your Zelia pretty good. So one way that she could fix Zelia is by having some kind of emotional or willful control hobby. But if she's not doing that and it's just kind of, let's play, let's let our emotions run free, then blocking is going to be a part of that. Yrsa is where you are susceptible to influence. You're susceptible to outside influence, and you're I'm not going to say you're a sucker for whatever people have on your Yrsa, but man, you are such a sponge for the energy around you with Yrsa that it can actually be problematic. So she's got her Yrsa in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th duodecanate of Gemini. And so when people are conveying their opinion and they do it in a kind of structured way, then there is the ability to be, well, okay, the decile is associated with Saturn, right? So, or at least Capricorn in structure. So there is a tendency to be subject to whatever serious opinions anybody puts out there. That's unfortunate because it's with Hephaestus and the moon. And so there's an air of restriction in the home or susceptibility in the home. And so you want to make sure, or this person wants to make sure, that the home is actually pretty clear. Uh, because it's in the Gemini decile, then there's going to need to be some kind of stable structure there. Otherwise, the home life, especially in youth, is going to be characterized by difficulties or blockages in one expressing their own opinion. Priska is where you are forever second place, or you feel like you're second place. Priska has an association with Buddhism and the aspect of Taoism in which you don't have a need to be first. But most people, especially us Americans, like to be first. And so Priska in our charts is going to tend to be negative for those of us who are either selfish or we're not trained to let other people go ahead of us. If this person does not let other people go ahead of her in the realm of spontaneous emotional release, that's Aries is spontaneity, and the 1, 2, 3, 4 square, it's an Aries square. So just kind of being free with their emotions. If she's not receptive to that kind of stuff, she's going to have a problem with her Priska in general. She may, in fact, feel as though she's never really allowed to spontaneously issue forth her emotions, no matter how happy the rest of this chart is. Ricarda is where things tend to go wrong unless you are helped by somebody else. This one's kind of basic. I don't want to dwell on it too much. It's one of the mean 13, but frankly, once you learn to depend on your friends or to let other people help you out, Ricarda kind of goes away as a bad guy. But it should be noted that if she wanted to say get talked about, because this is a Pisces undecile here, it's the 11th region going backwards. If she wanted to get talked about positively in the world, or she wanted to be on a kind of positive grapevine, she would typically need to do it via association with another person, because if she tried to do it herself, she may find that she's blocked, and that would contribute, along with Siri and Juno, and sudden emotional release, and a kind of restriction in the home, with it to a general unhappiness, a kind of inner inability to express. Lastly is Damocles. Damocles is where you have an ability to piss people off in your regular doings. You're minding your own business, and for whatever reason, people are mad at you. Damocles is highly eccentric, meaning it parks a long time in one sign and then it goes around the chart. Lots of people have Damocles in their Aquarius. She does too. Okay, these things can contribute to unhappiness. If you have not come to terms with these 6 asteroids and how to make them work in a way that you can keep under your own control, then happiness will elude you in these kinds of areas. Now over here, I have something else that you can use that is really, really important in finding happiness in your life. And this is the calculation of the sun-moon angle. Your sun-moon angle is a reflection of your intent to do something, that's your moon, and your ability to go out there and do it as a one-to-one interactant. And so the angle between these is going to be some fraction of a circle, and when you take that fraction of a circle out of 144, you're going to get one of the 144 little mini signs in here, which you really, really have to pay attention to in order to ensure your happiness. So for example, my own sun-moon angle is it's 161 degrees, and when you do all the math, it turns out to be the 69th harmonic. Starting here, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, and the 69th is right here. And so asteroids and stuff that I would have right there in the Libra novile section are particularly important for my own happiness with my sun and moon. And when I'm doing these things, I'm walking down easy street. I want to show you how to calculate your sun-moon harmonic in your chart, and I'm going to use Excel in order to do it. So first things first, wherever you get your chart printed out, you're going to need to know the angle between your sun and moon. Now I'm in Starfisher, so I'm going to go here and just choose Object Angles, and what I have, I don't know if you can see this. Let me zoom in. What I have is a 6743. Okay, so here's what we'll do. We're going to go into Excel and try to enter that value. Now it was 67 degrees and 43 minutes. So I'm going to go up here and type in equals, the equal sign, 67 plus 43 over 60. Okay, so this is the decimal version. Now, 67.7167 is the angle between her sun and moon. And then right next to it, I'm going to take 360 divided by whatever I got. So then you take equals 360 divided by this. And the answer is 53.1627. We take that 53.1627, and I'm going to highlight all this, and I'm going to duplicate it. So I'll just right click and paste it. There we go. I said 53, it's 5.3. Okay, and there you go. So now I'm going to list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'm going to do some multiplication. Over here, it's going to say equals, if you look up in the formula here, it's going to say equals this guy times this guy, and there's my answer. And I'm going to do that all the way through. This column contains this times this, so we can get each one. Once you do that, you're going to get some decimals. Maybe you'll get lucky and eyeball it. So like this one here, 85.06. Oh, no, this is even better. Look at this one, 101.009. What you're looking for is a number which is as close to a whole value as possible. And that's going to be your harmonic. Now, if you can't eyeball these, then the next thing you would do is put in round this number, and I put a comma 0 because I don't want any decimals there. But once I do that, I'm going to get the rounded version of all these guys over here. And then lastly, I take the absolute value equals abs, this guy minus this guy, or the other way around, and it's going to give me a column full of the differences between the unrounded value and the rounded value. You're like, what does this have to do with happiness? Okay, what we're trying to do is take your sun-moon angle and figure out which of the 144 harmonics it corresponds to, so we can look at that point on the wheel that you need to get right in order to have that. So if I look down here, I've used conditional formatting to make it easier for me to see, and in this column it appears that the lowest value we have is this one, 0.00911, and that's a 101st harmonic, 101. The 101 harmonic, if I go back to her chart, is going to be starting counting here. So we'll go 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96, and it's going to be 97, 98, 99, 100, 101. Right there. It's going to be a Cancer quintile. If she's able to interact with people, in showing her emotions, she's immediately able to act on those emotions in a kind of one-on-one way, then she'll find happiness. This is very, very much conducive to spontaneous, do whatever you feel like expression. And so you can imagine what kind of stuff that produces. It depends on what asteroid she has here. But the point is that if you go onto a place like SarahNew.com and you download your 1,000 asteroids, then they're going to pepper the whole wheel. And she's going to have some which are right here in Cancer. And they're going to be in 17.5 to 20 degrees Cancer. Whatever is in there, when it is working, will correspond to the same kind of happiness she experiences during her sun and her moon. And that's a launch site for everything else. Okay, so that's basically how you look at happiness in the astrology chart. The main thing that I want to stress here, though, is that happiness has several dimensions. It's not just, your mood. It has to be contentment with other things, particularly contentment with your friends and contentment with what you're doing in the world, contentment with your commitments, your family, whether you feel like you're able to express or you feel like you're always second, whether you feel like you need to block things, the stuff that you have a bad attitude towards, is it really getting in your way or not? Those are all components of happiness, and if you can master all of them, a thing that I've found for just generic happiness is that once you've mastered happiness for yourself, you'll actually tend to get bored with your own astrology chart, and you'll want to do more for other people because your own life is straight. That's a real test to see whether or not you've achieved happiness internally, by your lonesome, um, or not. So shoot for it, and good luck in finding happiness in your own chart, and hopefully you get to the point where it's no longer an issue for you and you can spend more time doing things for other people instead.